Most people today do not think about toilets. You walk into a bathroom, close the door, flush, wash your hands, and move on with your life. But for most of human history, that simple routine did not exist. No private bathroom, no toilet paper, no sewer system, no plumbing, and in a lot of places, no real plan for where all the waste was supposed to go. So what did people actually do before toilets? Where did everything go? And how did entire cities survive when thousands of people were all using the bathroom every single day? The answer is disgusting, weird, and honestly kind of impressive. Because before toilets, humans had to get creative. And sometimes that creativity made cities smell like absolute death. Everybody poops. Kings, queens, peasants, soldiers, priests, merchants, children, emperors, pirates, and philosophers. No matter how powerful you were, your body still had one very basic problem. It had to get rid of waste. Today that problem is hidden behind plumbing. You flush the toilet, and everything disappears like magic. But for most of history, nothing disappeared. It stayed nearby. It went into a hole. It went into a pot. It went into the street. It went into a river, or it was someone's horrible job to carry it away. And that is where things get interesting, because the history of toilets is not just about bathrooms. It is about survival. If a town could not deal with human waste, people got sick. Water became contaminated. Streets became filthy. Diseases spread, and cities became dangerous places to live. Before modern toilets, waste was not just gross. It was a public health disaster waiting to happen. The simplest toilet in history was just a hole in the ground. That was it. You dug a pit, used it, and either covered it up or kept using it until it became unbearable. For small groups of people, this could work. If you were living in a tiny settlement, a camp, or a rural area, you could keep waste away from where you slept, cooked, and drank water. The problem started when people began living close together. Villages became towns. Towns became cities. Suddenly, hundreds or thousands of people needed somewhere to go. A simple hole in the ground was no longer enough. Smell built up. Flies gathered. Waste leaked into soil. And if that waste got into drinking water, people could get very sick. This is why early civilizations started creating more organized systems. Some ancient societies had surprisingly advanced bathrooms. Others were basically just winging it. A lot of people imagine ancient life as completely primitive, but some ancient cities had plumbing systems that were impressive even by modern standards. The Indus Valley Civilization, thousands of years ago, had homes with drainage systems. Some houses had bathrooms connected to covered drains. That is wild when you think about it. At a time when a lot of the world was still figuring out basic sanitation, some cities already had planned drainage. Ancient Rome also had public toilets, sewers, and aqueducts. The Romans were obsessed with engineering. They built roads, baths, bridges, and massive sewer systems. In some Roman cities, people could use public latrines. These were long benches with holes cut into them. And yes, people sat next to each other. No stalls, no privacy. Just a row of people doing their business while possibly having a conversation. Imagine walking into a public bathroom today and seeing 20 people sitting side by side with no walls between them. That was normal. To the Romans, the bathroom could be social. To us, it sounds like a nightmare. But Roman toilets were not exactly clean by modern standards. The waste might flow beneath the seats through channels of water, which was advanced, but the cleaning methods were questionable. Instead of toilet paper, Romans sometimes used a sponge on a stick. That sponge could be rinsed in water or vinegar. And in some public places, it may have been shared. So yes, the ancient Romans built amazing roads and massive arenas, but they also may have passed around. History is complicated. Now let's jump to medieval castles. People imagine castles. They usually think of knights, towers, banquets, and royal drama. They do not usually think about the bathroom situation, but castles needed toilets too. In many castles, the toilet was called a garderobe. It was basically a small room or seat built into the castle wall. You sat down, did your business, and the waste dropped through a shaft. Sometimes it fell into a pit, sometimes it fell into a moat, sometimes it dropped directly down the outside of the castle wall. Which means if you were walking too close to the wrong side of a castle at the wrong time, your day could get ruined very quickly. The garderobe was simple, but it worked. Sort of. The downside was obvious. It smelled. It attracted insects. And waste building up near the castle could become a serious problem. Moats were not always the clean, defensive water traps people imagine. Sometimes they were basically giant sewage ditches. So when someone says they wish they lived in a castle, remind them that the bathroom might have been a hole in the wall dropping waste into the moat. Romantic, right? For most people, especially in towns and cities, the chamber pot was one of the most common solutions. Chamber pot was exactly what it sounds like. A pot. You kept it in your room, used it when needed, and then emptied it later. This was especially useful at night, because walking outside in the dark to find a latrine was not always safe or convenient. But then came the obvious question: where did you empty it? In some places, people emptied chamber pots into cesspits. In other places, they dumped them into streets or gutters. This is where the past gets really disgusting. Imagine waking up in a crowded city. People live above shops. The streets are narrow. Animals are walking around. Mud, trash, and food scraps everywhere. Then someone opens a window and dumps a chamber pot into the street below. In some cities, people were supposed to shout a warning before dumping it. Basically, watch out below. Which means one of the most important survival skills in an old city may have been not walking too close to buildings. The streets could become a mixture of mud, animal waste, human waste, trash, whatever else people threw out. And because many streets did not have proper drainage, the filth could just sit there. In hot weather, it stank. In rain, it spread. And if it reached water sources, it became dangerous. Of course, somebody had to clean this mess. And those people had some of the worst jobs in history. One of the nastiest jobs was cleaning out cesspits. A cesspit was basically an underground pit where human waste collected. When it filled up, someone had to empty it. In parts of history, these workers were sometimes called night soil men. Why night soil? Because they often worked at night. That way, the smell and the embarrassment were less public. Their job was to remove human waste and carry it away. Sometimes it was sold as fertilizer, which makes sense. Human waste contains nutrients. Farmers used all kinds of manure historically, but that does not make the job less horrifying. Imagine standing near a pit full of months, or even years of human waste. The smell alone could be unbearable. The gases could be dangerous. The work was dirty, exhausting, and looked down on by society. But without these workers, cities would have drowned in their own filth. They were doing one of the most important jobs in town, probably getting very little respect for it. The bigger cities became, the harder sanitation got. A small village could move waste away from homes. A massive, crowded city had a much bigger problem. People lived packed together. Animals were kept nearby. Markets produced trash. Butchers dumped waste. And human waste had to go somewhere. In many cities, rivers became the easiest solution. Dump it in the river. Let the water carry it away. The problem was that rivers were also used for drinking water, washing, cooking, transportation. The waste did not really disappear, just moved downstream, sometimes straight toward other people. This is one reason old cities could smell so bad. It was not just human waste, it was animal waste, rotting food, smoke, garbage, dirty water, and industrial mess. The past had layers of stink. People sometimes used perfumes, herbs, flowers, or scented cloths to deal with bad smells, but those did not fix the problem. They just made it smell slightly less like death. Now let's talk about the thing nobody wants to think about. Before modern toilet paper, what did people use? The answer depends on where and when they lived. Some used leaves, some used grass, some used moss, some used cloth, some used water, some used stones, broken pottery, or smooth objects. In some cultures, water was and still is the preferred method. In wealthier households, soft cloth or specially prepared materials might be used. In poorer places, people used whatever was available. And no, it was not always comfortable. Modern toilet paper is a very recent luxury compared to the full timeline of human history. For most of the past, people were improvising. And sometimes those options sound worse than just taking your chances. Today, bad smells are treated as a comfort issue. If something smells bad, we complain. In the past, bad smells were often linked to fear. For a long time, many people believed disease spread through bad air or miasma. They thought foul smells could make you sick. They were wrong about the exact cause, but not completely wrong to be afraid. Bad smells often came from rotting waste, contaminated water, or filthy living conditions. Those things absolutely could make people sick. They just did not understand germs the way we do now. So people tried to fight disease by fighting smells. They cleaned streets. They herbs. They carried scented items. They avoided foul places when they could. But until cities had proper sewer systems and clean water, Sanitation remained a constant threat. The real turning point came when cities started building modern sewer systems. As populations grew, the old methods could not keep up. Cesspits overflowed. Rivers became filthy. Disease outbreaks became terrifying. Eventually, cities had to accept that waste needed to be removed in a more organized way. Modern sewer systems changed everything. Instead of waste sitting near homes, leaking into wells, or being dumped into streets, it could be carried away through underground pipes. This did not happen everywhere at once. It took time, it took money, it took engineering. And in many places, it took disasters before people finally acted. But once modern sanitation improved, public health improved dramatically. The toilet became one of the most important inventions in history. Not because it was glamorous, but because it separated people from their own waste. That one change saved countless lives. So how did people survive before toilets? The answer is barely, sometimes. They survived through habit, adaptation, and a lot of unpleasant work. They used pits, they used pots, they used public latrines, they used castle garderobes, they used rivers, they hired people to haul waste away, they lived with smells we would find unbearable. They accepted disgusting things as normal because they had no better option. But survival was not the same as safety. Bad sanitation helped spread disease. Dirty water killed people. Crowded cities were dangerous, and a simple bathroom problem could become a citywide disaster. Modern toilets are easy to take for granted because they are boring. But boring is good. Boring means you are not dumping a chamber pot out a window. Boring means your street is not an open sewer. Boring means your drinking water is not sitting next to human waste. The toilet may not seem like one of history's greatest inventions, but it absolutely is. Because the moment humans figured out how to safely get rid of waste, life became cleaner, healthier, and a lot less horrifying. So the next time you flush a toilet, remember this. For most of history, that sound would have felt like magic. Because before toilets, civilization was basically one bad smell away from disaster.